So it didn't take long for people to realize that, in fact, failure for Africans to get back the land which they had bled for, the land for which they had been imprisoned, detained, killed, was a betrayal. The same structures of government that had been left behind by the colonialists were the same structures that were inherited. People began to feel that something more was needed. I remember when I came to America in 1971, I was coming because coming here was a passport to a good life. This country was a hotbed of then the civil rights movement. People were opposing the government, crying for more rights, saying racism was bad, opposing the war in Vietnam.
Freedom, 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 freedom.
I joined the African Students Union and will go to Washington, D.C. on the African Day each year to demonstrate against old colonialism, apartheid, neo-colonialism, and dictatorship in Africa.
I know that for sure that the Mau Mau and the struggle for independence in Africa was an inspiration to the African Americans.
Gingo said, look here, what's going on down in Selma? If you white folks are on the street, I'm gonna call Jomo Kenyatta. The police, he look mighty hard. Hello, Gingo Dinga. He got scared cause he was an ex-mama to see old Gingo Dinga.
So we saw that the first thing to do was to unite our people, not only unite us internally, but we have to be united with our brothers and sisters abroad.
I remember listening to Malcolm X, to his speeches, and I know that in a lot of his speeches he makes reference to the Mau Mau in admiration.
This is true. The Mau Mau played a major role in bringing about freedom for Kenya, and not only for Kenya, but other African countries, because what the Mau Mau did frightened the white man so much in other countries until he said, well, I better get this thing straight before some of them pop up here. And this is good to study because you see what makes him react.
Freedom now.
And when one part of humanity is fighting for freedom, they are fighting for and on behalf of the others. I got an insight into what life under freedom is all about. And having experienced it here, I had no greater desire than to see the same in Kenya. So I went back. I quit school, went back to Kenya to fight for democracy. For me, the only questions that needed debate were questions of tactics. How should I begin the fight? How best do I advance it? How would my ideas reach the people? Immediately when I got home, I realized that I didn't have a platform. So I started going around my place looking for problems to expose. I wrote articles about people forming companies that were mandated to buy land for them because the government had refused to give them land after independence. The misfortune of the people. These companies were led by most corrupt individuals, people who took the money and went and bought themselves land instead. It so happened that I was raising this point at a particular moment when Kenyatta, our first president, had declared that all robbers with violence would be hanged. And then I posed the question, who are the more dangerous robbers? Who deserved to be hanged? The people who are robbing billions from the people, or poor people who were robbing 100 shillings from the people. Who was the more dangerous? Who deserved to be hanged? And people thought that just questioning Kenyatta was overdoing my rebellion, and they reacted very strongly. I came to the conclusion that there was something about journalism that wasn't quite right as a weapon of struggle. I didn't enjoy any protection as a journalist. And it was at that point that I said, I want to join politics. I want to go to parliament, become my people's representatives and speak from there with parliamentary immunity. And so I contested the 1974 elections. But even after they had rigged the election, and this opponent ended up beating me with only 800 votes, they were so scared by my performance that they decided that they needed to get rid of me.